Have you ever heard of something called rods or skyfish? Perhaps you've stumbled across a sensational YouTube video claiming to reveal footage of bizarre, elongated creatures darting through the air. Or maybe you've read about them in cryptozoology circles, those corners of the world where discussions about Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and UFOs are commonplace. Rods, also known as air rods, flying rods, or even solar entities, are optical artifacts that some people believe represent paranormal or extraterrestrial life forms. Others, however, firmly dismiss these phenomena as a simple trick of the camera, a byproduct of light, movement, and video technology. So, what are rods? Why do they appear in videos and photographs? Are they just insects caught mid-flight? Or do they hold the key to undiscovered forms of life? Today, I'll take you on a journey into the strange and sometimes controversial world of rods, exploring the science, the myths, and the cultural fascination surrounding this phenomenon. But before we begin, let's take a look at this video, uploaded to YouTube about 16 years ago by an anonymous user. The person captured these images on their camera, recording what appeared to be a flying rod. They asked viewers for an explanation, but nobody has been able to determine what it is. The story of rods as a popular phenomenon begins in the 1990s, particularly with a man named Jose Escamilla. Escamilla, a filmmaker, claimed to have discovered rods by accident on March 19, 1994, in none other than Roswell, New Mexico, a location famous for its long-standing association with UFO sightings and extraterrestrial lore. Escamilla was attempting to capture footage of a UFO when he noticed strange, rod-like objects appearing in his video. These objects were elongated, sometimes appearing to have wings or appendages, and they seemed to move at high speeds, often zipping across the screen too quickly to be seen with the naked eye. Naturally, Escamilla was intrigued. What were these things? Were they small, fast-moving creatures invisible to human vision? Could they be some form of alien life? Escamilla believed he had stumbled upon something extraordinary. He went on to produce videos and documentaries showcasing rods and promoting the idea that they were a previously undiscovered species. His work drew significant attention, particularly from enthusiasts of the paranormal and ufology, the study of unidentified flying objects. Escamilla's theories sparked debates, inspired amateur investigators, and gave rise to a wave of speculation about the nature and origin of rods. But while Escamilla's claims captured imaginations, they also raised skepticism. Critics and scientists began to ask, could there be a simpler, more mundane explanation for these mysterious rods? Before we dive into the science, let's take a closer look at what rods actually look like. Descriptions of rods are fairly consistent across reports and videos. They typically appear as elongated, cylindrical shapes, hence the name, rods. In many cases, these shapes seem to have wings or appendages running along their sides. Some people describe the wings as fluttering or undulating in a rhythmic pattern, almost as though the rods are propelling themselves forward like fish swimming through water. Rods also appear to move extremely quickly. In most videos or photographs, they streak across the frame in a split second, making them difficult to observe in detail without slowing down the footage. Their apparent speed and the way they seemingly materialize out of thin air only add to the sense of mystery surrounding them. Because rods are often captured on video near bright light sources, such as floodlights, sunlight, or even reflections, some proponents argue that these entities are attracted to light, similar to insects or moths. This observation has fueled theories that rods might exist in a dimension just beyond our perception, only becoming visible when conditions are just right. But are these fantastical creatures really hiding in plain sight, or is there a more logical explanation? The scientific explanation of rods begins with a simple premise. What we see in videos or photographs may not always reflect reality as we know it. This is especially true when it comes to cameras, which can sometimes distort the way we perceive movement, light, and time. In the case of rods, scientists argue that what we're really seeing are insects or birds in flight, captured in a way that creates an optical illusion. Here's how it works. Cameras record video by capturing a series of still images, or frames, in rapid succession. Most standard video cameras record at a rate of 30 frames per second, FPS, meaning they take 30 individual images every second. However, when an object, such as a moth, fly, or bird, moves quickly across the camera's field of view, its motion can become blurred. If the camera's shutter speed is slow, or if the object is especially fast, the result is a streaky, elongated image that doesn't resemble the original object at all. To better understand this concept, let's consider the mechanics of an insect's flight. Many insects, like moths, flap their wings rapidly, sometimes dozens or even hundreds of times per second. If a camera captures an insect in motion, the wings will appear as a series of overlapping images, creating the illusion of a continuous, rod-like shape with bulges or appendages. In reality, those appendages are just the wings caught mid-flap at different points in time. This effect is known as motion blur, and it is a well-documented phenomenon in photography and videography. Scientists and skeptics who have analyzed rod footage point to motion blur as the most likely explanation for the appearance of these mysterious entities. If rods are really just insects, then it should be possible to prove this through experimentation. And that's exactly what happened in 2005 when China Central Television aired a 2-part documentary on rods. The documentary focused on events that took place at the Tonghua Zhengguo Pharmaceutical Company in Tonghua City, Jilin Province. Surveillance cameras at the company had captured footage of rod-like objects similar to those shown in Jose Escamilla's videos. The footage caused a stir, and curious scientists decided to investigate the phenomenon. To test whether the rods were real creatures or just optical illusions, the scientists set up large nets around the surveillance cameras. The idea was simple. If rods were actual flying entities, then they should be caught in the nets. The cameras continued to record as before, capturing footage of rods zipping through the air. Once the experiment concluded, the nets were carefully examined. And what did the scientists find? Moths and other ordinary flying insects. The rods visible in the video footage were nothing more than insects flying through the camera's field of view, their rapid wing movements creating the illusion of elongated shapes. This experiment provided strong evidence that rods were not paranormal or alien in nature, but rather a product of how cameras record fast-moving objects. To truly understand the rod phenomenon, it's essential to examine the role of technology in shaping what we see. Cameras are incredible tools for capturing moments, but they also have limitations. One of the most significant factors contributing to the appearance of rods is shutter speed. In photography and videography, shutter speed refers to how long the camera's shutter remains open to expose the image sensor to light. When the shutter speed is fast, the camera can freeze motion, capturing crisp, clear images of moving objects. However, when the shutter speed is slow, moving objects appear blurred because they are in a different position at the beginning of the exposure than at the end. For example, if you've ever taken a photo of a fast-moving car with a slow shutter speed, you may notice that the car appears as a streak or blur. The same principle applies to insects or birds in flight. When a video camera records a flying insect at 30 frames per second with a relatively slow shutter speed, the insect's body and wings become stretched and blurred, creating the illusion of a rod-like shape. This effect is particularly pronounced when the insect is moving quickly and is close to the camera. The closer the object is to the lens, the faster it appears to move across the frame, increasing the likelihood of motion blur. Bright light sources, such as the sun or artificial lights, can also enhance the effect by reflecting off the insect's wings and body, making the rod-like shapes more visible. Now to understand why people believe that rods are something other than insects, why they cling to the idea of alien life forms, paranormal entities, or undiscovered creatures. We need to examine the deeper psychological, cultural, and societal factors at play. This isn't simply a matter of misidentifying motion blur. Rather, it reflects patterns of human behavior, our innate need for mystery, and the way we process information in the face of uncertainty. At the core of the phenomenon lies humanity's deep fascination with the unknown. For millennia, people have looked at the skies, the oceans, and the forests, and wondered what lies beyond. This curiosity is part of who we are, explorers by nature, storytellers by design. When faced with something we don't immediately understand, our minds often default to explanations that align with our hopes, fears, or imaginations. The belief in rods as alien life or supernatural entities satisfies this need for mystery and excitement. For some, the scientific explanation, motion blur caused by insects, feels too mundane. It's not exciting. It doesn't provoke awe or wonder. Instead, the idea that rods are some form of intelligent life or a previously undiscovered species allows people to feel as though they are on the cusp of something grand and significant. It transforms a blurry insect into evidence of a hidden reality, and that can be very compelling. Cognitive biases, those shortcuts and errors in judgment our brains make, play a big role in why people cling to the paranormal explanation for rods. One of the most prominent biases at work here is confirmation bias. This is our tendency to look for, interpret, and remember information that supports what we already believe, while ignoring evidence to the contrary. For instance, someone who already believes in UFOs or paranormal activity may see videos of rods and immediately interpret them as proof of their beliefs. If they then search for more information, they're likely to encounter websites, forums, and videos that confirm rods are alien entities or sky creatures. Meanwhile, they might dismiss skeptical or scientific explanations, considering them part of some broader effort to cover up the truth. Confirmation bias can create a self-reinforcing loop that's hard to break. Another relevant cognitive bias is pareidolia, the tendency to see patterns, shapes, or familiar images in random stimuli. This is the same mechanism that makes us see faces in clouds or hear words in white noise. In the case of rods, pareidolia can make a blurry, elongated insect wing appear as a structured, intentional shape, a rod-like form with appendages. The human brain loves to impose order onto chaos, so what might be an out-of-focus insect becomes, in our perception, something extraordinary. It's important to note that the rods phenomenon is uniquely tied to technology, specifically video cameras and digital imaging. This gives it a modern twist that other mysteries, like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster, don't have. When rods first began appearing on video in the 1990s, consumer video cameras had become widely available, but their recording speeds and resolutions were still relatively limited. Cameras couldn't always capture fast-moving objects with clarity, which led to visual artifacts like motion blur. For many people unfamiliar with how cameras work, how frame rates, shutter speeds, and exposure times affect the resulting images, these artifacts seemed inexplicable. To them, it wasn't a technical glitch. It was evidence of something strange and unexplainable. And because the images were captured by objective devices like cameras, they were imbued with an air of credibility. The camera doesn't lie, people often say. But in truth, cameras can produce distortions and errors that, without proper understanding, can easily be misinterpreted. Moreover, the internet accelerated the spread of rods as a phenomenon. Videos and photos of rods were shared online, often accompanied by dramatic music, sensational claims, and emotionally charged language. These presentations made the phenomenon even more captivating. As more people were exposed to the idea of rods, a community of believers began to form, a community that reinforced each other's beliefs and dismissed outside skepticism. So why do some people reject scientific explanations, even when they're clear and well documented? One answer lies in the tension between skepticism and belief. Skeptics approach claims like rods with a demand for evidence, a focus on logic, and an emphasis on falsifiability, asking questions like, how can we prove or disprove this? Believers, on the other hand, often approach the same phenomenon from a place of wonder, imagination, and faith. They ask questions like, what if this is real? Or why would anyone lie about this? For believers, the scientific explanation can feel dismissive or condescending. When someone says, those are just insects, it can feel like they're trivializing an experience or taking away something that brought excitement or wonder. This perceived conflict between those who believe and those who deny can create an emotional investment in the paranormal explanation. Once someone feels personally invested in an idea, they're less likely to change their minds, even in the face of strong evidence. At a deeper level, belief in phenomena like rods often ties into humanity's search for meaning. Life can feel random, chaotic, and overwhelming, and many people take comfort in the idea that there's more to the world than meets the eye. Believing in paranormal entities, UFOs, or undiscovered creatures provides a sense of purpose and wonder. It suggests that the universe is full of secrets waiting to be uncovered. It allows people to feel connected to something larger than themselves. In the case of rods, this desire for meaning manifests as a belief that the phenomenon is significant, that it represents proof of extraterrestrial life, hidden dimensions, or even spiritual entities. To believers, rods are not just insects. They're a sign that the world is more mysterious and magical than we realize. This belief can be very comforting, especially for those who feel disillusioned by the mundane aspects of everyday life. Another factor contributing to the belief in rods is a growing mistrust of authority and scientific expertise. In recent decades, there has been a noticeable increase in skepticism toward institutions, scientists, and mainstream media. Some people feel that experts are part of a larger system that suppresses the truth, whether intentionally or unintentionally. This mistrust can lead people to reject scientific explanations for phenomena like rods, viewing them as attempts to debunk or cover up the truth. Jose Escamilla, for example, capitalized on this mistrust by positioning himself as an outsider, someone who was uncovering the truth that others didn't want you to know. His videos, lectures, and interviews often framed rods as a phenomenon that mainstream science couldn't explain or refuse to acknowledge. For those already predisposed to mistrust authority, this narrative was compelling. It painted Escamilla as a lone truth seeker and scientists as closed-minded gatekeepers. Belief in rods isn't just about the phenomenon itself. It's also about the community that forms around it. When people encounter something strange, like a video of rods, they often turn to others to make sense of it. Online forums, social media groups, and YouTube channels provide spaces where believers can share their experiences, theories, and evidence. These communities offer validation and support, which can strengthen people's beliefs and make them more resistant to outside skepticism. In a community of believers, dissenting voices are often met with hostility or suspicion. Skeptics are seen as outsiders or debunkers who are trying to ruin the fun or suppress the truth. This creates an echo chamber where only evidence that supports the belief in rods is amplified, while contrary evidence is dismissed or ignored. The more people reinforce each other's beliefs, the more entrenched those beliefs become. Cultural factors also play a role in why people believe in rods. Different cultures have different attitudes toward the paranormal, the unexplained, and the role of science. In some cultures, there is a stronger emphasis on spiritual or mystical explanations for unusual phenomena. Rods might be interpreted as spirits, guardian entities, or signs from the divine, rather than as insects or camera artifacts. Popular culture, too, influences how people perceive phenomena like rods. Movies, television shows, and documentaries about UFOs, aliens, and cryptids have created a cultural landscape where the paranormal feels plausible. Shows like The X-Files, for instance, popularize the idea that the truth is out there, and that strange phenomena are being hidden from the public. For many people, rods fit neatly into this narrative. They're seen as part of a broader mystery that mainstream science refuses to acknowledge. Finally, personal experiences play a crucial role in shaping belief. Someone who sees a video of rods for the first time might feel a sense of awe or wonder. They might be struck by how strange and unexplainable the phenomenon appears, and that initial emotional reaction can leave a lasting impression. If they later learn about Jose Escamilla's claims or see other videos of rods, their belief in the phenomenon can deepen. For some, belief in rods is tied to other personal experiences with the paranormal. If someone has had a UFO sighting, a ghost encounter, or another unexplained experience, they may be more likely to interpret rods as evidence of the paranormal. Their previous experiences shape how they perceive the phenomenon, making them more open to extraordinary explanations. Now, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below, and subscribe for more content like this.